those years, just having the time to coach at Penn State?
Yeah, I'm from there. I'm from State College. I mean, actually State College. I'm from Philly, which obviously is 3 hours or so from State College. So Pennsylvania is my home, where I grew up. Grew up in a region where Penn State was it, much like obviously growing up in Nebraska. Nebraska's it. So coaching there was a unbelievable experience, and obviously when we took over, that experience was like none other in my career, having taken over for that time frame with Coach O'Brien, him and his staff, our staff. Obviously, those great players, Mike Mowdy, Jordan Hill, to name a few, that were just the unbelievable leaders to keep that thing afloat for those couple of years before Coach Franklin took over. So when I get there, it's just another game. I've coached in a bunch of cool stadiums and cool venues, but going back there, I'm going to have a bunch of family going to the game, and my son there flying in for Thanksgiving, so it'll be cool.
When you guys are not, so much of the staff, so many members of the staff have Pennsylvania ties. When you're not in a week like this where you're playing Penn State, is there an awareness of what's happening there, just because of the ties that guys up there have with Penn State, and not just Penn State, but sports in general? And,
as far as what's going on, meaning like the coaching change?
Conversations that you guys have.
I would say that it's really no different than any other scenario. Yes, I'm from there, but like I've also coached at a lot of places, so the experience to go back there and coach there is awesome. And to be around some family and friends, and I even have some friends of mine I grew up with that played at Penn State that still live up there, so I'll see them. But as far as what's going on with them and their program, we're so locked in on all the things that go on with our program and how we're trying to make sure we're playing as well as we can on defense on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis. But I'm sure things will work out.
Do you remember the Nebraska game that year in 2013?
In 2013, I remember it was a close game. I think we lost, meaning we as not Nebraska, but the team I was coaching. But not a whole lot of memories about that in terms of, I remember then coming here the next year, I believe, or maybe it was the year before, I'm not sure, maybe it was 2012. Both of those games were tight games, and there was a play in the end zone, I think, here that I remember that because I remember that I think they got the call wrong. But, yeah, should have been a touchdown, and we should have won that game. But anyway.
How have you seen their offense adjust with the QB injury mid-season and just where they're at now with what they do there?
Yeah, when you look at their offense, the strength of what they do is they have a great offensive line. They have two great backs, big physical tight ends, and a mentality of that region and that program to run the football. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, an opportunity. I know that one of the number 13 has a chance to break the record up there, and we've got to do everything we can to make sure he does it against another team. But they're gonna run the football. You can see that the identity of what they've been doing of late is establish the run, control the game, be a physical team, and we've got to match that with how we prepare day to day. And then we go up there, we have to understand that's the type of game it's going to be.
Mentality of that region, is that a weather discussion?
Maybe it's just you're growing up on the East Coast, you don't see a whole lot of sun. The thing I love about Nebraska, and we've got a great office complex there. You get up every morning and sun's out over the practice field, and even though it may be cold, it's when you can see the sun, your demeanor's a little different. So maybe that's why I was so grumpy growing up, is I didn't see the sun for months. And maybe the 6 years in Buffalo, I never saw it for 6 months. But
it seemed like Keona Davis had one of his better games against UCLA. Have you seen him kind of building to that?
Definitely. He is really progressing. Even out there in the practice field today, I mentioned to him how the activity level that he's playing with, kind of the level of havoc he's creating. We've really emphasized that the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks is players that are creating havoc and being difficult to block. And he's definitely become one of those guys, not only in the practice field, and I think it's starting to show up in games. And once it starts to show up in games, you get a little more confidence, and then your production kind of continues to increase. Especially, he's only a sophomore; he's a young player. So
what jumps out about their quarterback, Grunkmeyer? He's had to step in, obviously, kind of what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
Young guy stepping in for a veteran quarterback.
What I see, a guy has a big, strong arm. When you look at the last couple games, and really specifically the Indiana game, Indiana is a very good defense, as you guys know, that does a good job stopping the run and the pass. And he's ripping 25-yard in cuts, and he's ripping sail routes on the sideline. So he, when the coverage is what he thinks it is, he can make the throws, and he steps up in the pocket, and he's making those intermediate throws that I think I talked about a couple weeks ago. That's really the challenge for a quarterback, is you can throw it short, you can throw it deep, but if you can make those intermediate throws And he's doing that. And then if you look at the Michigan State game, having the savvy and the competitiveness in critical situations on those last two drives of running the ball and extending the drives and, making the winning plays. So, that combined with their run game and their physicality, I think we've got to be prepared for.
What did you see from Dylan Rogers and him making that first start out there at UCLA?
Yeah, I think Dylan's really played well in the last two ball games. We were excited by, what he did in USC. Like he embodies what we talk about and what Matt talks about, a culture of physicality and, just being tough, contact-based player that, he went out there for maybe 12, 15 plays in USC and had 5 or 6 production plays. Then went out there last week and played physical. He rushed the passer well. Sometimes these guys just need an opportunity. And sometimes as coaches, we have to understand that the guys that, really buy into the process and that are physical and that love football and love their teammates. And sometimes all you got to do is throw them out there, and when we've played them the last couple games, I haven't even noticed a drop off or even thought about it. And I've even told Phil Simpson that, we need to play him because he represents what we want to be all about, and he'll put his face on you. He'll be physical with you, and I'm excited about what he's brought to the table in the last 2 weeks.
He's been a good special teams guy too. How much do you track what guys are doing on that unit and how it can translate to your side?
I personally don't. I've got enough that I got to deal with, but I do have conversations with Coach Eck about who's playing well and who's playing physical and who's playing with good contact, and his name as well as some of those others like Jeremiah Charles' names come up a bunch. That's going to prepare him because anytime you're playing in a game in any aspect, special teams will help you then play on either offense or defense because you're building that confidence and you're building that kind of rep count. And then when you have success doing that, it's a lot easier then to have some success on your defensive, offensive, side of the ball. So that's the general progression. Not everybody's going to be that guy, that just comes in as a freshman and just is the starter from day one. You're going to have to earn your keep and earn your way on the field with a good team and a good defense, and usually that's through special teams and the ability to operate in that area.
How have you felt about the tackling? Was that something you guys worked a little bit more on with some time during the bye week?
No, I think we've worked. I feel like it's continued to come along. We work on it every single day to the point of it's the same drills, the same contact emphasis, tackling in space. One of the things we got to keep working is, and we're doing it in practice actually probably more than anybody, is we're tackling quarterbacks. Usually the quarterback's off limits, but we're tackling quarterbacks here because that's continued to be an issue that you have to keep working, especially athletic ones like Nico or athletic ones like the ones we've seen at Cincinnati and Michigan State. But, we're just going to continue to work on that and keep developing that.
John, when Matt was here yesterday, he was talking about the run defense and saying what a great opportunity for guys to conquer things that have bothered them.
Right.
What have you seen Matt say in terms of this kind of no excuses mindset, and how have you communicated that to your group?
Yeah, he's talked to the team and talked to the coaches. You got to find a way or make a way. That's ultimately what this is. It's a great challenge for us. We're a good football team and a good defense. There's a lot of things that it's low-hanging fruit right now to say that we're struggling to stop the run, but we're one of the best pass defenses in the country, one of the best teams of not letting people in the red zone. We don't give up explosive plays. There's a lot of things that we're doing. We haven't given up a 400-yard rusher. We haven't let a team score on us in the first drive of the game. So there's some things that we're doing well, but obviously in a game like this, we know and understand that it's going to come down to our players embracing that. They're going to try to run the football, and we have to stop the run. And that means by any means necessary. If that means me going out there as the 12th guy to make the tackle, I'll do that. But, that's just what it's going to take. That's how we're preparing. We understand the challenge ahead, but this is November football, man. This is what you live for. If you're playing at this level, you want to play in a game like this that, hey, they know they're going to run it. We know they're going to run it. And it's like the good old days of high school football when you got to stop the run.
What kind of potential stress does that put on your corners and safeties if they're going to find themselves in a lot of man-to-man?
Yeah, whether it's man or zone, the math of football is they have 11 people, we have 11, and we're only able to get one more in the box than they can block, and that player has to make the tackle or somebody else has to get off a block. Or you play shell coverage and then you take the pressure off your secondary, but then you put the pressure on your front, which we have not done a lot of. So our corners understand the challenge that's there. We understand that we're going to have to do some things that based on our current situation, to really stop the run and commit to stopping the run. And we're going to do that, and look forward to it. Thank you. You guys have a good day.